I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
And I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we're going to talk to you about how learning to write makes people better speakers. Now,
better communicators in general.
Better communicators in general. Now, we got the idea for this discussion because recently I heard an anecdote where someone had been told, oh, there's no need to teach students how to write anymore because when are they ever going to write? And I was absolutely appalled that anyone could even think of uttering such a sentiment, because writing is how we learn to express ourselves.
And it's how you learn to organize your thoughts.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, in 19th century etiquette guides, including one I excerpted for my etiquette anthology, True Ladies and Proper Gentlemen, it actually stated that writing was the most important thing to teach boys and girls, because when they became men and women, the thing they were going to be doing most in their life was communicating. And writing is how you teach them to communicate, because it's how you organize your thoughts, it's how you make a concrete argument, and not argument in terms of fighting, but just argument in terms of communicating a coherent idea.
And trying to persuade people.
Absolutely.
To an understanding of your perspective, or agreement with your point of view, or anything else. I've been teaching a class in public speaking, and in order to get students to the point where they can basically make a coherent argument in front of people, and not memorize it, but just be fluent in talking in front of people and not stumbling or forgetting elements of the argument, or just not connecting some of their points or providing enough evidence. It takes a lot of outlining and writing and notes and little details to be able to sort of build an argument to get it to that point.
And it takes practice in introducing a subject, having a what we used to call body paragraphs, which is the discussion of that subject, and then a conclusion of the subject. And writing is the perfect way to practice that. And when you practice that, then you get better at expressing your thoughts that way in oral speech. It's also a way to practice the old classical Greek philosophies you like to discuss, of the logos, pathos, and ethos.
The Aristotelian rhetoric.
Yeah,
yes.
And explain a little bit about those.
Honestly, we're still using those in college level classes to teach students about how to make an argument or how to make a point.
And you're teaching them because they work.
We're teaching them because they work, and because they're still the most useful way to understand a lot of human communication that way. You have your rational arguments made through logic, that's logos. You have your emotional arguments that are called pathos. And you have your arguments from essentially this is from character or ideals or values.
The ethics of your social group.
Yeah, and that's the
ethics and identity of your social group.
Yeah. And so that's the ethos argument. That's what sort of people are we?
What constitutes a good citizen?
Exactly.
It's everything from what constitutes a good citizen to what sort of a person do you want to be.
Yeah, it's about moral values and ethics and all of that. It's about your code,
right,
when it comes down to it.
Right.
So those three, all tied together and used in one degree or another, are sort of how you formulate an argument.
Right. And it's very, very difficult to come up with those off the top of your head at the spur of the moment.
Right.
If you haven't practiced.
Yes, absolutely. And having the idea of a formalized structure really helps you understand and break down someone else's argument, so that you can also see how to poke holes in it. And this is where it really comes in handy to understand logical fallacies. And this is really important when it comes to information literacy for students looking at things these days as diverse as political speech or advertising, and what they're presented with, and being able to say, oh, I see the argument they're making, and that falls apart because right, exactly.
Right. So let's throw out some logical fallacies out there, like say the straw man logical fallacy.
Yes. So you basically hold up a sort of a constructed lesser version of something.
Or sometimes a more extreme version.
Or sometimes a more extreme version, so that you can just knock it down in the place of actually making the argument against the real side, because it's easier.
Right.
And so that way you can make it appear that you've defeated their argument, even when you didn't really defeat their argument, you defeated your fake version of it.
Right. It's for example, if someone said, oh, well, you shouldn't have cats as pets because cats use up resources that could be going to humans, and if everyone had pet cougars, imagine how horrible the world would be. In that case, the cougar is the straw man.
Yes, exactly.
And you pick that apart by saying a domestic cat is not a cougar, and they use a finite number of resources, which they very, very much deserve.
But let's give them some other examples. There's the slippery slope. You know, and I think most people are familiar with that one.
Sunk costs is one of my favorite,
Sunk costs
because
is a big
so
one.
many people fall prey to sunk costs.
Yes.
So the sunk costs fallacy is the idea of we've invested these resources.
So we can't turn back now.
Right, right. And this is everything from, oh, well, we've put so much of the school's budget into this technology. We can't just not use the technology now.
Even if it's proved to not be helping and, in fact, potentially harming the students.
Right, right. That's a sunk cost fallacy. You have sunk the costs into it, so even if it hurts you, you're going to keep driving yourself into the ground to justify these costs.
And sometimes these costs are not just monetary. These costs are just that we've basically invested so much of our efforts in convincing people that this is a good idea that we can't go back now because we'd look silly.
You know, the year 2020 springs to mind.
Yes, indeed. So many cases. Another one of these logical fallacies that everyone is familiar with now is the ad hominem.
Ah, yes.
Simply attacking the speaker instead of attacking their point.
Right, right. So much politics is just ad hominems now.
Right.
They don't even try to debate in any sort of logical manner.
No,
they just call each other names.
And talk right past each other.
Right,
Yes,
right.
exactly. But those are just some of the logical fallacies. There's also arguments that just take one of the other, either pathos or ethos, to an extreme, to the point where it falls apart because it is just basically not functional. It doesn't work. It doesn't convince people anymore because it's just too extreme.
Right. Now let's come back to why it's important to practice these in writing.
Absolutely.
And not just limit ourselves to speaking, and why actually practicing in writing helps us be better speakers.
Yeah, so writing things down really helps you formulate thoughts that are coherent and organized. You can come up with an impromptu speech to a certain extent, but it is never going to be as well worked out as if you write it out in a paragraph and go back and edit it and understand the writing process of being able to refine and perfect ideas.
Right, right. And it gives you a chance to pause and reflect, as Gabriel said, and really think about what you want to say. Now, in this case, we're doing this whole video ad hoc.
Well,
we're doing it without practicing or writing anything down, but we're able to do that because we have written a lot.
Yes, exactly. And that practice is what allows you to get better at doing things off the cuff.
Right.
And being able to do this off the cuff only comes from a lot of practice and a lot of background and a lot of understanding of how all of this actually fits together and how it works.
There are no shortcuts. It takes what Heinlein used to call brain sweat.
Exactly. And it's definitely something that I'm trying to encourage in my students, because a lot of them feel like, oh, if it's just a 2-minute speech that I have to give, I can just improvise that. And
well, I could improvise a 2-minute
I know, but
speech.
they don't have the background and the brain sweat to be able to basically do a good job of that. And they don't realize that yet. They just think about the output. They don't think about all the preparation that goes into being able to do a good job with it. And that is part of the challenge, is that in order to do a good job and communicate effectively, it takes effort, work, practice. A lot of that practice is done in written form. And that's because, yes, you get that time to pause and reflect. It's also because in just going over it, you get to rehearse these thoughts and ideas, and you come up with a better organized and a better phrased version of all of them, just by virtue of recalling and running through them in your head.
Mm-hmm. And writing things out gives you a chance to contemplate the nuance of the words you want to use. Mm-hmm. Because the specific way you express something is very important. Mm-hmm. It reveals your bias, but it also helps you influence the story you're telling and the argument you're making.
Your choice of metaphors or similes, your choice of vocabulary, mm-hmm. your choice even of stylistic things like alliteration and, all of these little details, they add up to the particular way in which you are talking and the way you make your point. Mm-hmm. And it all changes it subtly and allows you to really express exactly what you're trying to get across in the very individual way that you should be. It's your unique perspective. It's your unique ideas that you're trying to get out there.
And we tend to choose our words more carefully when we're writing than when we're speaking. And if you get in the habit of writing a lot, then you'll choose your words more carefully when you're speaking as well than you did before. Mm-hmm. Which matters because, again, the words are your tools. And you wouldn't go out to fix a car with nothing but a sledgehammer.
Well, maybe someone would, but it wouldn't be a good idea.
It wouldn't yield top quality results.
Right.
And you want to have the right tool for the job. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the job is life. The job is living. Mm-hmm. And the job is communicating and getting along with other people. Mm-hmm. And you do that more effectively if you prepare yourself with the right tools.
Yeah, and it's getting things out of other people too. It's getting them to hire you, getting them to sell you the thing you want to buy from them.
Getting them to be your friend.
Getting them to be your friend. Getting them to marry you. These are basically the sorts of things that communication helps you along with.
Yeah, you'll be a lot more effective at persuading someone to marry you if you ask them very eloquently versus the, dude, you want to get hitched? No offense to anyone who has gotten engaged that way, but
I don't think that's anyone's dream marriage proposal.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the dream. It's probably happened.
Oh, I'm sure it has.
It's not the dream. And we think everyone should be living the dream. Mm-hmm. And part of living the dream is preparing yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good takeaway.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that we encourage everyone to practice the art of writing, whether it is writing letters, writing a diary, whether it's just writing ideas and notes and keeping sort of a commonplace book and jotting down your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Any of those things will help you with just formulating your ideas and coming up with a better version of all the things that run through your head every day.
Right. I mean, I've been keeping a diary since I was old enough to write. One of my first entries is, all in block letters, "We got a kitten."
There you go.
And I think the next one just shows what I was preoccupied with as a child, because it said, "Today in school, I wrote in my book." And I've been writing ever since then, and keeping a diary ever since then. And I think that it's a good thing for everyone to do, just to write down your thoughts and get in the practice of expressing yourself. Not just to other people, but to yourself. Because if you can express yourself to yourself, you can express yourself to other people.
Yeah. And also, again, think of it as something that's not something you're doing for an assignment.
No.
Think of it as something you're doing to improve yourself and improve your ability to connect with other people.
But not in the way that you eat spinach to improve yourself.
No, not in that way.
You're doing it because it's going to enrich your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like chocolate.
Yes, more like chocolate than spinach.
Yeah. Thanks for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up. And remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!